This video will show you how Axxana helps you save on the tremendous cost and complexity of 3 data centers topology for replication in order to achieve zero data loss at any distance. Many people think that 3 data centers is the ultimate solution to achieve zero data loss at any distance. What we will show you is that this scenario actually is hugely expensive, it is complex, and is not as safe as you thought. Placing Axxana inside the primary data center in a 2 data center scenario is much lower cost, much simpler, and actually much safer than 3 data center scenario. So let's start by talking about what is a 3 data center scenario. In a 3 data center scenario, you have the primary data center and a nearby data center, which is located at a synchronous distance and uses a very costly fiber line, very high bandwidth line, in order to synchronously replicate between the primary data center and the nearby data center. A 3 data center topology means that that nearby data center will then replicate asynchronously into the remote standby data center. So we have one exadata in the primary, another exadata in the nearby data center, and another exadata in the DR data center. As you can see, this entails synchronous line here, a whole data center here, 3 setups of hardware in order to try and achieve zero data loss. Tremendous cost, but still a scenario that would work. Now, why do you do all this? Why do you just not do synchronous? Because what happens if you have a regional disaster? In a regional disaster, you would not lose everything. Because if you did not have this scenario of the asynchronous, then you would commit to zero data loss, to synchronous replication. You would report that you are protected at synchronous zero data loss protection, replication. But in a regional disaster, you would lose everything. So you would be better off with async, actually, in that situation. Because a remote data center would not be destroyed by a regional disaster. So you place both data center, close by and remote, in order to maximize your chances. But you spend an obscene amount of money on this. It is a very complex scenario. You have triple the infrastructure. You're taking a scenario that could have been a very simple scenario and you're making it very, very complex. That is the reason why not so many organizations are opting to use 3 data center scenario. And it really moves the problem. It really doesn't solve it, because it would still be just async with data loss in a regional disaster. Enter Axxana. What you would quickly see is that Axxana, with a 2 data center, much lower cost, much simpler, asynchronous scenario, would achieve more than 3 data center scenario. And I will show you how we do that. So let's get rid of all the cost. Let's get rid of the nearby data center. That's actually the bulk of the cost. Let's let the river flow and get rid of that synchronous line. Let's turn the 3 data center scenario into a simple 2 data center scenario with the replication just flowing between site A and site B. A very simple scenario. This scenario, in a regular scenario, would be losing the last redo logs and archive files. Adding the Axxana black box that is placed within the primary data center. The Axxana box is a hardened black box like in an airplane that has its own power, that has its own communication, wireless communication, WAN, and other ways to extract the data post-disaster, is connected to the primary Exadata. And of course, we're showing Exadata as an example. It could be any Oracle server with storage. And it could be DataGuard or any other form of asynchronous replication. But attaching Axxana and protecting the redo and the archive, redo online logs and the archive files, the last mile of the data, the lag between the data centers in an asynchronous scenario. And you can watch our other video that shows exactly how this is done. Adding Axxana would protect the lag, the missing logs against a disaster, regional or non-regional. It is placed inside the primary data center, so there is no third data center, there is no fiber line, there is no dependent on that line to be always intact, and it doesn't suffer from disasters because it will be protected against any disaster. So post-disaster, that data is going to flow to the other the DR remote data center and would provide 100% recovery because the asynchronous data guard would recover up to a certain point in time, and Axxana would fill the gap to RPO 0 because it is protected, because it does not care about a third data center, does not need asynchronous line, it's all internal, and it would achieve a zero data loss scenario with 2 data centers. So 3 data centers equals very high cost of another data center, a fiber line, a dependency on that line, much complexity, 3 sets of everything, and a risky situation of a regional disaster and basically failing over at asynchronous data loss. While Axxana with 2 has no other data center, no fiber lines, completely disaster proof even with regional disasters, and would achieve 100% recovery in any case. So therefore, Axxana with 2 data centers is much better than 3. Thank you.